everybody. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Madison Bowen. I'm an occupational therapy student at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. This is part one in our three-part series discussing sleep interventions or sleep strategies for foster children. Let's just jump right on in. So this is module one, trauma and sleep. What is healthy sleep anyways? So this is just a outline of all the different topics we're going to discuss today. They include what is sleep and what happens during it, age-appropriate sleep, what happens when we don't sleep, how does trauma affect our sleep, and an introduction to this series overall. All right, so I think we all have our own ideas of what we think sleep is, but what is it exactly? As defined by Merriam-Webster, it is the natural, easily reversible periodic state of many living things that is marked by the absence of wakefulness and by the loss of consciousness of one's surroundings. It is accompanied by typical body posture, such as lying down or with the eyes closed, the occurrence of dreaming, the changes in brain activity, and physiological functioning. Is made up of cycles of non-REM and REM sleep, and is usually considered essential to the restoration and recovery of vital bodily and mental functions. Our state of rest is so important that we actually spend 1/3 of our life sleeping. So to just put that in perspective for you, we spend about 3 years eating. And if you live to be 75 years old, you'll spend 25 of those years of your life sleeping. We may look super peaceful when we're sleeping, but there's a lot going on. Researchers theorize that as we sleep, our bodies fight off pathogens, repair tissues, and form memories of what we have experienced throughout the day. All right, so we have two processes of sleep regulation. We got the circadian clock and the homeostatic sleep drive or sleep pressure. So let's just go over what those two things are. So the circadian clock is on a 24-hour cycle, and that's dependent on the sun's light-dark cycle. The clock or the pacemaker is actually the part of your brain called the hypothalamus. The light will hit your eyes, travel down the nerve tract, and get to that clock and regulate it. It helps initiate sleep, begin promoting wakefulness even before you wake up in the morning, and mount sleepiness in the evenings until we fall asleep. Its companion is the homeostatic sleep drive or sleep pressure. And this basically is kind of what it sounds like. So it is the mounting force as we are awake that goes back down when we sleep. It begins again when we wake up. So it's a cycle. It's like a balloon. So throughout the day, the pressure in the balloon increases until it is all the way blown up. There's no more air that can go inside it. It has to go somewhere. And then when we fall asleep, the air goes out again. So sleep debt occurs when you don't get adequate sleep. So essentially, your body needs to pay for what you missed in sleep. So for example, if you need to get 8 hours of sleep at night and you only get 6, you've accumulated 2 hours of sleep debt. This can cause lower cognitive performance overall in your daily life. This is why it's so important to get adequate sleep consistently so you don't even acquire this debt. The good news is when you get adequate sleep on a consistent basis, some really wonderful things happen. So you are more able to learn efficiently and maintain attention. Your behaviors are more consistent and rational. You have improved mental and physical health. Your memory is intact. You can regulate your emotions, and your overall quality of life is definitely improved. All right. So there are recommended amounts of sleep you are supposed to get by age. And these are actually decided by a panel of experts in sleep medicine and sleep science. So starting from infants, that would be 4 to 12 months old, you need to get about 12 to 16 hours of sleep. For toddlers, that's 1 to 2 years old, 11 to 14 hours. Preschool, 3 to 5 years old, you need to get 10 to 13 hours. School age, 6 to 12, you need to get about 9 to 12 hours. Teen 13 to 18 years old, 8 to 10 hours. An adult, that's 18 plus, that's me and you, we need to get 7 or more. And it's important to note that for infant, toddlers, and preschool age, those all include nap times as well. All right, just like you can get too little sleep, you can definitely get too much. And according to that same panel, these are the parameters for that. So looking at infant, you have anything that is less than 12 hours of sleep to greater than or equal 18 hours. For 1 to less than 3 years old, you have less than 10 hours of sleep and greater than 16 hours. 3 to less than 6 years old, it's less than 10 hours and greater than 14 hours. 6 to less than 13 years old, you have greater than 13 hours. 13 to 18 years old, you have less than 8 hours and greater than 10 on a regular basis. And we recognize that this isn't possible at all times. Things happen, vacations happen, birthday parties happen, late nights happen. As long as it's not consistent, it's completely fine. I think it becomes an issue when sleep is not adequate consistently and it's affecting participation in things that the foster child needs or wants to do. All right. So looking at naps by age. So these are just the guidelines for the average frequency and duration of naps. For a newborn, 1 to 2 months, it's throughout the day. 3 to 11 months, 3 to 4 times daily, and about 30 minutes to 2 hours in duration. 1 to 3 years is 3 to 4 times daily, and 30 minutes to 2 hours long in duration. And around 3 to almost 5 years old, it is once per day. All right, so napping through young life. This is just a graph that I've created of about the average amount of children per age, so 4, 5, and 6 that are still napping. So looking at 4 years old, it's 60%, 5 years old, it's 30%, and 6 years old, it's about 10%. So there's gradually a decrease in the naps that these children are taking. Truthfully, children age out of naps naturally. And there's a couple signs your foster child may be ready to stop napping altogether. You could notice that your child is waking up earlier than normal. Your child is having difficulty falling asleep at nighttime. Your child is having difficulty falling asleep at nap time specifically. When you skip nap time, they're not showing signs of being tired. So instead of taking naps, you can fill this time with quiet activity. It's a period of rest that can promote increased energy for the rest of the day and memory consolidation. It really can be anything that you find calming to your child and that they enjoy to do. This can be coloring, reading, crafting, puzzles. I would really avoid replacing nap time with activities that are stimulating and vice versa, promoting drowsiness. So you could think of things stimulating that could be loud noises, or the drowsiness riding in the car. So just like there can be wonderful effects of getting an adequate amount of sleep, there can be adverse effects to not getting the right amount of sleep. When children don't sleep, it impacts their physical, cognitive, behavioral, and biological health. So physical symptoms can include blurred vision, fatigue, tiredness, daytime sleepiness, and changes in appetite. And I think these are all things that we can relate to, that we have experienced one time or another with not gaining the right amount of sleep. On a deeper level, though, biological symptoms are muscle repair and hormone release are stunted, increasing the risk of sickness. Hypertension and obesity are also things that can occur. It affects the way that we behave, causing stress, aggressive behavior, anxiety, depression, impulsivity. It can also have cognitive effects on our decision-making, our working memory, and our learning. Overall, all of these symptoms contribute to the disruption of our ability to complete our daily activities. And for our foster children, this can include social participation, so talking to our friends, leisure participation, riding a bike for fun or for sports, work for teenagers, school, and most importantly, play. It is so important to note that when children are sleep deprived, you're sleep deprived. You're on the front lines. You're the ones who rock and console and comfort these children until they fall asleep. In turn, you put your needs selfishly aside. As a result, the lack of sleep you're experiencing can cause reduced concentration, increased stress, irritability, impaired sleep quality, and decreased sleepiness during the day. This can also affect the ability of you to fill the roles that you need to fill. This includes the role of parent, spouse, student, employee, and several other things. I wanted to pull some statistics about foster care and sleep. 44% of 13 to 17-year-olds had difficulty falling and staying asleep in foster care. 59% of 11 to 12-year-olds in foster care had difficulty falling and staying asleep in foster care. These rates are 2 to 6 times higher than the general population at this age, and I think it definitely proves a need for more resources out there for foster parents like you. So how can we define trauma? It can be defined by the National Child Traumatic Stress Network as a frightening, dangerous, or violent event that poses a threat to a child's life or bodily integrity. This can also include witnessing an event that threatens the life or physical security of a loved one. Unfortunately, trauma is a lot more common than you probably think. In the general population, 46% of 17-year-olds or younger report experience at least one type of trauma. 22% of 17-year-olds or younger report experiencing more than 2 types of trauma in their lifetime. Body and trauma, what's going on? So inside of our bodies, when we face an extremely stressful event or trauma, we have a natural response. In those with trauma, even a reminder or a trigger of their trauma can cause the body to go into what is called the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. Basically, your body is going to prepare itself to protect itself by activating the sympathetic nervous system. This is part of the autonomic nervous system, meaning you don't even have to think about this reaction happening at all. The process itself releases 3 hormones called norepinephrine, epinephrine, and cortisol into the bloodstream that causes various changes throughout the body. So think about yourself in a forest. You're walking along and you see a bear. What's going to happen? So naturally, your heart accelerates, your pupils dilate, your muscles tense, you have quickened or fast breathing, and you have slow digestion. This is because you need to allocate that energy to protecting yourself in that moment. So you don't need to digest your food right then. So again, this comes from a fear response in response to trauma that is physical or psychological in nature. So let's go back to the bear example I gave in the last slide. So fight would mean facing that danger head on and aggressively. So you're fighting that bear. But in an everyday sense, this can look like a tight jaw, an upset stomach, intense anger, crying, or attacking. With flight, you're running away from that bear. You are hightailing it out of there. But think about when you are giving a speech in class. You may be constantly moving your feet, your legs, and your arms, feeling trapped, feeling a sense of numbness overall. Freezing is exactly what it sounds like. So when that bear is starting to threaten you, you cannot move. When triggered or reminded of past trauma, this response can look like a pounding heart, pale skin, or a sense of dread. Our last form of the fear response is fawn. And this definitely serves as a way to avoid conflict in children. The child may actually feel anxious and scared, but will choose to be agreeable and helpful regardless of those feelings. Long term, our bodies are not designed to live in this fear response over and over. For those who've experienced trauma, This automatic response can happen very often. As a result, there are some changes that happen in the brain, and this allows this response to overcome our conscious thinking. So we may be able to rationalize what is going on around us, but not be able to override that feeling of panic. This allows the stress hormone cortisol to be constantly circulating. Children may seem on edge or overreactive, or it can leave those same children shutting down and not reacting when a real threat arises. For example, a person who has a phobia of heights may find themselves in a stress response on an airplane or walking up a flight of stairs. Things that are normal to us may trigger a response in them, causing panic. When trauma is repeated or multiple traumatic experiences occur, it can cause complex effects across the lifespan. This can include changes in learning, attachment and relationship, physical health, emotional responses, self concept, and behavior changes, including sleep. Individuals often go misdiagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, and bipolar disorder. Complex trauma often comes with anxiety and mood symptoms as well as behavioral dysregulation. These symptoms can be used as a form of communication. Looking at these behaviors in foster children with empathy, understanding, and normalization helps you, the caregivers, understand their trauma and develop the skill to use correct strategies to actually help them sleep. Trauma can manifest in a variety of ways in everyone and have unique implications for sleep. Again, looking closely at the actions of your foster child around sleep can point to what areas to adjust or aid in to facilitate sleep. For example, a child may experience abandonment or be afraid to be alone when sleeping, or another child may have experienced abuse at night and want to be completely alone to feel safe. They both have trauma and anxiety around sleep, manifesting in different ways, causing different sleep issues. So often, being physically safe does not always equal feeling safe. When children experience trauma in their early lives, it creates a disruption or dysregulation in the stress response, as mentioned before. It can create a child that is extremely hypervigilant and has hyperarousal even when there is no physical threat. But for that child, that threat is very, very real. Children often look to their parents to soothe their fears, soothe their nightmares, when they're scared in the dark. When a child enters your home, healthy attachment has to be created and does not come automatically. This is completely normal for attachment to take time, and it can be created through trust and safety. I want us to imagine for a second that we are a foster child who just has been placed into foster care. You have past trauma and it's time for you to go to sleep for a new school in the morning. You not only have a new caregiver and new foster siblings, but a new room, a new routine, and new clothes. You cannot help but worry about your siblings that got a different placement and if you will ever see them again. Additionally, as you try to go to sleep, your body is working against you. You're fearful, your heart is beating fast, and you are trying to catch your breath but can't. Could you sleep? And I think a lot of us would say, no, we couldn't. Unfortunately, this reality is very, very common for a lot of foster children dealing with sleep difficulties. According to a group of 43 foster care licensing agency personnel who work directly with foster families, they were surveyed about their experiences and their perception of sleep among the children that they served, and this is what they came up with. 62.7% of these families had difficulties with nightmares, nighttime fears, and wetting the bed. 65.1% resisting and refusing to go to sleep, and at the top at 86% difficulty falling asleep. There is good news. So we know that quality sleep is dependent on three factors, and those are consistent routines, secure attachment, and a predictable environment. Because of our knowledge of this, we have crafted two more modules. The second module, Sleep and the Senses, Strategies to Create an Environment to Encourage Sleep, and Module 3, which is Increasing Independence and Confidence Around Sleep Through Choice, which will focus on strategies to address these three factors in order to facilitate sleep in your foster children. Our main goal is to instill confidence into you watching this and to use the applicable information and resources provided to encourage healthy and safe sleep in your foster children. So basically, how this course is going to function is after each module, you'll have a quiz that is linked below. You will take the quiz, which is about 5 questions. And do not worry about if you get it right or wrong. If you do end up getting a question wrong, it'll tell you to try again and you get unlimited tries. Once you finish that quiz, it will automatically take you to the next video. And you will proceed with this process until you get to the third and final module, where you will take the quiz like normal, but attached to that quiz is a survey, and this is just getting your feedback about what you thought about our modules. Once you complete that, it will take you to a certificate that is able to be printed out, have your name written on it, and on the back you can write 3 things that you learned from the course. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you on Module 2.